Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland de Panne is the second Mack Xtreme Spinning Coaster. Their first was Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City, which opened in 2018 to rave reviews. But Ride to Happiness is on a completely different level. This coaster unlocks the full potential of the model and delivers a far more intense ride experience. You have more spinning, more inversions, and more airtime. This coaster blew me away, and I'll discuss why in this review of the Ride to Happiness. Plopsaland de Panne is the flagship park owned and operated by Plopsa. The park is located in the heart of Adinkerque, Belgium, and the park had a modest coaster lineup before Ride to Happiness opened. Ever since Time Traveler opened, people have anxiously awaited where the next Mack Xtreme spinner would go. But few people guessed it would ever go to Plopsaland de Panne, a park whose main clientele is families. Ride to Happiness is one of the wildest coasters I have ever ridden, and it was clear that Plopsaland wanted to expand their ride lineup to attract more thrill seekers. But did their €15 million investment pay off? I visited Plopsaland on a summer Saturday shortly after the coaster opened. The park actually had capacity that day, and many of the family rides such as Heidi the Ride, Super Splash, Dino Splash, and even the roller skater were pulling hour-long waits most of the day. Meanwhile, Ride to Happiness had no more than a 20-minute wait almost the entire day. Part of that is the fact that this coaster has a higher capacity than the park's prior rides, but I think a lot of park guests were a bit intimidated by the ride. It seemed like more people are watching the crazy coaster in awe rather than actually riding it as I made my way around the park. However, everyone who came off Ride to Happiness was laughing uncontrollably, including myself. Ride to Happiness is located in the center of Plopsaland, so you get a ton of different vantage points of the coaster as you make your way around the park. There are two main sections to the ride. The first half is nestled against the water, while the second half is where the ride's entry plaza is. And the coaster looks astounding at night with the lights in both the station and the ones embedded on the trains themselves. While the coaster was announced back in 2019, the ride's official name and theme was not revealed until early 2021. The coaster would be named Ride to Happiness and themed to Tomorrowland, the EDM music festival held annually in Belgium. It was a quirky theme for a coaster, but Plopsaland went all out and it really heightens the experience. The queue line and station have this futuristic steampunk vibe to them. There are two indoor sections of the queue line with things to look at, although the first section of this queue line was never filled on the day I visited. And then when you reach the station, you have this dazzling robotic woman on a screen above you. Her voice is almost hypnotic, especially as she recites the ride's tagline over and over: "Live today, love tomorrow, unite forever." And the other aspect that really heightens the experience is the ride's soundtrack. You have a mesmerizing loop in the queue line station, but the onboard audio is what really shines. You have this amazing EDM music synchronized perfectly with the ride's elements. It increases in tempo as the coaster navigates its craziest moments, which increases the sense of speed and thrill factor because it really gets your adrenaline pumping. Ride to Happiness runs two trains, each seating 16 riders across 4 cars. The trains are near identical to the ones on Time Traveler, both from an aesthetic standpoint and functional standpoint. The trains look great and have a futuristic feel to them. The restraints are the familiar lap bars that you'll find in the Mack coasters that are extreme, and they're super comfortable. These are lowered and checked automatically with the press of a button, similar to how it's done in Time Traveler. However, there is one key difference with the restraints on Time Traveler. For years, enthusiasts have criticized Mack restraints for continuously lowering throughout a ride. I'm pleased to share that Ride to Happiness corrects this issue. Their restraints lock immediately before you're dispatched, so they will not come down further during the coaster's high G segments. This makes it a little easier to appreciate this coaster's airtime in full, and there's a lot of it. Ride to Happiness dispatched trains fairly quickly, which helped keep the line moving. The only thing that slowed down dispatches and ultimately caused a long line later in the day was this coaster propensity for breaking down. Maybe Ride to Happiness was just having a bad day, but it would go down 5 to 10 minutes, seemingly every hour. It seemed to be something with the restraints throwing faults on one of the trains, and at the end of the night, the back car was actually blocked off on one of the trains. Time Traveler runs super consistently, so hopefully these bugs can be worked out in the future. In terms of seat selection, I like the back car best. I thought this car had better hang time on the inversions, and the drop off the top hat is absolutely insane back there. The other rows are excellent too though, which is a stark contrast to Time Traveler, where the coaster suffers mightily if you aren't in that back car. One factor that can really influence your ride is how the cars are loaded. Ride to Happiness spins much faster than Time Traveler. It still doesn't spin quite as fast as the smaller Mack spinners, but it's somewhere in between, which is downright incredible to spin at this rate considering the elements this coaster offers. This spinning kept Ride to Happiness fresh, and it gave the coaster a ton of re-ride value. Once dispatched, you immediately navigate this super slow Heartline roll out of the station. I love that more coasters are incorporating JoJo rolls, because it is a funky and fun way to start off a ride. And the one on Ride to Happiness is unbelievable. I think this element has the most sustained hang time of any coaster element in the world. Not only does it offer roughly 5 seconds of sustained hang time, but you're also rotating through the element. Whoever would have thought an element taken at speeds less than 5 miles per hour could be so thrilling and disorienting. You then come to a stop on the launch track. Well, sort of. The train physically stops moving forwards, but your vehicle will continue to rotate. After roughly a 5-second pause, you launch forwards with no warning. The launch doesn't have a high rate of acceleration. It's about on par with the other Mack launches out there. However, it is ultimately an intense launch because of how much you spin during it. Getting centripetal force while accelerating forwards is a really funky feeling. You spin at a pretty good clip at the start of the launch, but halfway down the launch track, the vehicle starts spinning uncontrollably like a top. Since the trains did this consistently each ride, I suspect there must have been some sort of magnetic actuator to cause this. But whatever causes it, I'm certainly not complaining because it produced some wild whip. You then ascend the ride's top hat, reaching your maximum height of 108 feet or 33 meters. The apex of this top hat is super sharp, so those up front get a very strong pop of ejector airtime when you ascend this hill. Even those in the back get some weak floater airtime cresting the top hat. Unlike most top hats that go straight up and down, the ascent and descent in this one is broken up by this funky outward bank turn. This not only gives you a few extra seconds to appreciate the great view of the park, but those up front also get some lateral hang time from how slowly you traverse this turn. But the most important thing this turn does is it gets your vehicle spinning yet again, going into the drop. And this drop is amazing. If you've ridden Time Traveler, this drop feels very similar. I couldn't find an exact drop angle, but the drop looks and feels vertical. If you're in the back car, you get violently launched towards the sky. And the music increases in tempo as you're ejected from your seat. The timing is perfect. Odds are you'll be rotating during the drop, which makes the super strong ejector airtime feel even crazier. This is easily one of the best drops in the world. The pullout offers some good positive G's, and then you navigate a banana roll. Those up front maintain the positive G's into the element, while those in the back instead get good hang time on the flip itself. This element messed with my mind. Off-ride, the banana roll looks nothing like a vertical loop, but on-ride it feels like a vertical loop because your vehicle spins at the apex of the inversion. After another forceful valley, you go through an actual vertical loop. This one is taken a bit slower than the one on Time Traveler, and it offers better hang time. You get a little bit of hang time up front, and more towards the back. And you will of course be spinning, which makes that hang time feel even more extreme. After some more positive G's in the pullout, you zip through this 0G roll. Your vehicle spins like a top at the apex of the inversion, which will completely throw off all sense of direction. And at the same time, you get some great hang time, more so than the prior two inversions. You then whiz over this bank turn over the water, getting some decent G's, before crawling over this S-hill. Ride to Happiness has near perfect pacing, but this is the one element that feels wasted. It's the only time that those in the back can catch their breath. It offers no laterals, airtime, nor forces in the back cars. Up front, it does at least offer some very weak floater airtime, but it's still the weakest element on the ride by a long shot. But Ride to Happiness immediately picks things up with the second launch. This launch is okay power, but there are two things that elevate it. First, you spin through it like the first launch. You don't get a surprise spin boost halfway down the launch on this one, but you will still be spinning throughout the launch, getting some centripetal force. Second, like the second launch in Copperhead Strike, this launch is a bunny hill halfway through it, and this hump gives good floater airtime throughout the whole train. Then comes the best inversion on the ride, and that's saying a lot, the flying snake dive. At the apex, the first barrel roll quickly inverts you and gives you an upside down pop of airtime. And then you stay levitated out of your seat as Ride to Happiness slowly navigates the twisting dive loop. You get a good 3 to 4 seconds of hang time on this element, and this is also one of the most disorienting elements in the world. Storm Runner's flying snake dive is famous for messing with your sense of direction, and Ride to Happiness goes one step further by spinning throughout a flying snake dive. I had no clue where I was going on my first ride. You then fly over this camelback, which gives good sustained floater airtime throughout the train. You are then whipped around this low overbank, and you line yourself up for a great finale, a double up. Both humps in this element offer wild ejector pops throughout the train, especially because the odds are in your favor that you'll experience one or both of them in an odd orientation, whether it be sideways or backwards. I have long said that getting sideways or backwards airtime is one of the best feelings on any coaster, especially when it's as strong as the airtime is on Ride to Happiness. You then hit the brake run, and after my first ride, I was speechless. Because of how quickly Ride to Happiness spun, I had no way to anticipate the ride's elements. I was laughing hysterically as the coaster spun like a top, while also flinging me out of my seat again and again. After a few rides, I was able to predict the ride's elements a bit better, but that didn't make them any less enjoyable. Last but not least, I want to touch on the ride's smoothness. Some mocks can have a rattle to them, but Ride to Happiness is extremely smooth. This fact, combined with the ride's wild and unpredictable layout, kept getting me back in line. So what would I rate Ride to Happiness? This coaster easily gets a perfect 10 out of 10. I rode 116 different roller coasters on my most recent European road trip, and Ride to Happiness was the clear number one. Further, this may be my new favorite roller coaster, although I'm still debating that part. Ride to Happiness offers an experience that no other coaster can currently match. While Time Traveler is the same ride model, that coaster doesn't have the relentless layout like Ride to Happiness. Outside of that one aforementioned S-Hill, every single element on Ride to Happiness is top-notch. The JoJo roll, top hat, zero-G roll, flying snake dive, and double up are 5 of the best elements on any roller coaster. Those elements would be great on their own, but add in the fact that you're spinning at a good clip for much of the ride, and you have a truly unpredictable and out-of-control ride experience. And you also have arguably the best onboard soundtrack ever on a roller coaster as icing on the cake. Ride to Happiness is the complete package, and this ride should be on every thrill seeker's bucket list, and I cannot wait to see Mack build more of these. So those are my thoughts on the Ride to Happiness, the incredible extreme spinning coaster at Plopsaland de Panne. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Do you think it has a case as the world's best coaster? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.